Welcome to the Run to Danger podcast. Please enjoy this original song by my good friend Luke Bailey, titled, you guessed it, Run to Danger. I am blessed to have my wife Megan joining me today for episode 12 of the Run to Danger podcast. Megan, welcome.
Thanks for having me.
You're welcome. Megan, I wanted to have you on, to kind of talk about where we're at with our wrestling club and the business, but also I just kind of wanted to get your background as a wrestling girlfriend, wife, parent, fighter, wife. I wanted to get your insight on what that was like, and then just get a little bit of your background as well.
Yeah.
Sound good?
I love it.
Okay. So first off, where are you from?
Originally I'm from Ojai, California, which is a really small town in Southern California. And then we moved here to Redding when I was in 8th grade.
And where'd you go to school?
Junction alumni. What's up? And then Foothill after that.
Okay. And you played a couple sports during that time?
Yeah. So I grew up and I played all the sports that I could. And then I continued on in junior high and high school with softball and then volleyball were my two. And I played both competitively, but softball was definitely my main sport because I'm not tall. So that didn't work out.
You're just powerful.
Yeah.
Weren't blessed with length.
No.
It's okay. Junior high, you kind of made a small group of friends that you kind of carried throughout high school.
Yeah.
But talk about just that transition when you were moving up to Northern California from Southern California.
Yeah.
What was that like as you're entering this new world in Northern California?
Yeah, so it was kind of crazy. I had a quote-unquote boyfriend. We basically we would wave to each other as we pass in the halls, and but we had dated for I think 3 or 4 years, from 3rd grade to 7th grade. So in that time, our families hung out and we became really close, and their family ended up moving up to Redding, which we ended up coming to visit, and my mom was a single mom, and so Redding at that time was super affordable compared to Southern California. So Southern California rent was expensive. There was no way that we could ever own a home down there. And so moving here, it was life is even slower than our little town was. And so we came up to visit our friends, and my mom just asked both my sister and I, and she was like, "Would you guys ever want to move to Redding?" And my sister said, "Yeah, whatever." And I said no, but eventually came around to the idea. And so a year and a half later, we moved to Redding with into our friends' guest house. So it's our friends are the Clegg family. And so yeah, we moved into the Clegg's guest house, and Jaden and I, my boyfriend, were just friends, of course, at that time. And we're still really great friends today with their family. And so yeah, we moved into their house, and their family was a huge part of us transitioning from Southern California up to Redding. So their family was really good about plugging us in with friends. We moved in, and basically their family set up play dates for us. They weren't play dates because we were older, but yeah. But yeah, some of my closest friends today are one of the play dates she set up. Mm-hmm. And so yeah, that transition was made a lot easier because of the Cleggs and the friends that they helped line up for us. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah,
and that's such a cool little spot too, in Palisadro where you guys were living, and it's just such a cool homey portion of our county, where it's just secluded, small, quiet, and there's some really good character people there too.
Yeah, and during that time too, those a lot of the people that we met, and it's just because Redding's so small too, but that area of Palisadro and the Silver Bridge area, we had so many neighbors that went to our school and that we all kind of hung out with. And so, yeah, it's a special little road, especially then.
Yeah, for sure. And then, so you said did volleyball and softball, and you stopped doing volleyball when?
My junior year.
Okay, and you still love volleyball. You still play today. And that's like one of your favorite. Where would you rank those two sports?
Yeah. So I'm not proud to admit, but I quit playing volleyball because I was afraid that I wouldn't make the varsity team. And so that's why I stopped playing, but it's by far my favorite. But I loved softball, and I thought I had a shot at like playing in college for softball. So I was definitely more talented and like physically built for that sport. So that's why I went that direction. But like fun wise and like what I still continue to do is volleyball, just because it's fun.
Nice. Yeah. And where does Jiu Jitsu fit in?
Jiu Jitsu is my least favorite sport. So I love it. I do. But it is a really hard sport, and you don't look cute, and it's not easy, and you have to work really hard. But I love it. So yeah, it's just volleyball. I can go play with my mom friends, and jiu-jitsu, I have to go fight my mom friends. So it's hard, but I like it.
Yeah, we'll go back to that, but I wanted to circle back to kind of when we first met.
Yeah.
Started dating very young.
Yeah.
But I wanted you to kind of share with the audience your transition into wrestling as a girlfriend. Like, what was your first impression of this sport? Because you had no real clue of what wrestling was. Your cousins played baseball growing up.
Yeah.
You were around that portion of athletics, not necessarily the combat sports aspect of things. So take me through what that experience of discovering wrestling was for you.
I didn't even know wrestling was a sport. Like, I did not know it existed. I knew there was WWF, and we weren't allowed to watch it. So, like, that coming into it was what I thought wrestling was. And so at first, like, it was weird. I had no idea what it was. And it was very private, too. Like, your wrestling room, like, so you and I met at the very beginning. We met at a orientation dance, like before school even started. So we started hanging out and then dated starting in October. So I was in volleyball season and you were in preseason for wrestling. So volleyball, you're just like on display in the gym and everybody can watch your practices and everyone comes and watches your games, whatever. But so wrestling, you guys were in a tiny little room and you would come out looking like you had just like stepped out of a shower, but had also gotten into a fight. And then you would like pop in, like you would like maybe peek and like wave for 2 seconds and then go back. And like the doors were closed. You were not allowed to come in. I just had no idea. So I'm trying to think. I think my very first experience with wrestling would have been, I was supposed to go to a dance with my friends, and I changed my mind last minute and decided to go to your wrestling tournament, which would have been Natomas, I think. And so, we drove down to Sacramento and sat in a gym for a lot of hours, and that was my very first like experience. And I literally, like, my mom and sister, and we took a friend with us, we just sat there and they were wondering what was going on, and so was I. But your mom kind of sat with us and told us a couple of the rules and what we were looking for. But that was my very first experience with like what wrestling was and watching you guys do it.
Yeah, and that tournament's funny too because it's
a dual tournament.
Yeah, it's not a traditional, individual tournament. It's a dual tournament.
Yeah.
So it's almost better that you guys came to that one first, probably, because it was like consistent.
Well, and I understood what the team was.
Right, and you could watch the team go. Whereas, some of those tournaments are so sporadic and crazy.
I don't know that I would have come back. If that was so.
That scared you off.
Yeah.
Other than like trying to understand it and the scoring and all that, your first experience at a wrestling tournament.
Yeah.
What did you think about just like the sport as a whole? What was your impressions coming away from that?
Yeah, I think it definitely took a couple of tournaments and a couple of like times watching you guys to really understand what it was and understand like how hard of a sport it is and like how much you put your heart on the line and like, yeah, I had never seen, it's interesting because that group of boys is so tough and I think a wrestler is so tough. But then to see you guys get so emotional too, like win or lose. But I remember like thinking, holy moly, there's this boy who is old. I'm trying to think of nobody in particular, but like just seeing these massive athletes who are really talented and then like watching them go and cry on the side of the mat. Like it makes me cry brutal, thinking about it. And like, yeah, I just, to this day, like it's part of what I love about the sport is like it is so hard and it's so vulnerable, but you guys go and you do it time and time again. So that's kind of what hooked me.
Yeah. And then
also you were really good, so it was really fun to watch you. And then I like could count on the fact you would probably win and then we'd have a great day. And then some of your teammates might not as much, but we were gonna have a nice day.
Yeah. Talk about how you learn wrestling.
So wrestling's very confusing and if you think of any sport, it's very confusing, but then you have wrestling where you're like, okay, what's going on here? And, and I just had no idea. So what I did is I looked it up and I made flashcards of all of the like point scoring system. So anything that the ref did, I had a flashcard for what that was. So I studied flashcards and that's how I learned wrestling. And I will say it is incredibly helpful. And because I was watching and I was like, anytime he'd like call two, he's tapping his arm 2-3 times. And I'm like, well, how did he just get 6 points there?
Yeah.
And your sweet mom would be like, no, honey, it's only 2. He's just signaling to the table until they get it. So, but yeah, I did flashcards. I'm a student of the game. Thank you.
Yes, you are. And then, so what was it like with the teammates that I had?
Yeah.
We all kind of had girlfriends at the time as we were ascending and doing well. So it was kind of a cool like little tribe we had going. What was that like?
It was really cool. At first it was like incredibly intimidating because you were one of the youngest. You were a sophomore when we started dating and I was a freshman. So I was brand new to the sport, brand new to the school. And in with like at minimum, most of your like close teammates were juniors and seniors. And so of course their girlfriends were juniors and seniors, which coming in is a little intimidating. But I will say, all of the girls were really, really sweet and welcoming. But there was one, Miss Candace, and she just like, I remember we were at NorCal's and she just like took me under her wing and she was like, okay, this is how we keep score and we're going to sit here. And because your dad, like as soon as he realized I was going to keep showing up to stuff, he either gave me a video camera or he didn't give me a scorebook then because I still struggle with that. But Candace and I would just like sit on a mat and she just kind of like, she showed me the ropes and she would say, okay, come on, we're going to go sit on the mat. I'm like, well, Candace, they told us we're not allowed to sit on the mat. She goes, it doesn't matter, just sit. So it was cool. I loved her and, her especially, but all the girls were very sweet and very welcoming, but I just felt like she totally took me under her wing and just kind of showed me the wrestling girlfriend ropes.
Yeah, you got roped into a lot of chores and stats and all that.
Yeah.
But that was one of the cool parts was that my family allowed you to come travel with us.
Oh my gosh,
stayed in the room with mom and sisters.
Yeah.
So that was really a cool blessing that you were able to like tag along, because we traveled a lot. Like we traveled all over. And
growing up, like I did not travel at all. Like the biggest trip my family ever made was visiting from Southern California to the Clegs up here. Like we traveled a little bit for sports, but it'd be like 30, like if we traveled 45 minutes for a sport, it was a big deal. And my mom was really nervous about it. So like going with you guys, even if we were going to like Reno. That was a massive deal.
Yeah.
And it was cool. Yeah, I got to know your family very quickly through it.
Trial by fire.
Yeah. It was fun.
Yeah. Was there a time where you're just like, where you were confident that like almost every tournament, like we were going to do well, or were you nervous like coming into it at all? Like what were your emotions like for like the team and for everybody?
Yeah, I just felt like I had grown up with two cousins who were like who were like brothers to me. And so like walking into that team, I was like, oh, I guess I just have more big brothers. Like it was really cool and really special, and that's like exactly how they treated me. And yeah, they would pick on me like big brothers, and they were just very, very sweet. But going into tournaments and stuff, I think it's mostly ignorance. Like, I did not realize how talented you guys were, and I did not know how hard the sport actually was. You guys, that group of boys made it look so easy that I was always overly confident. I just was like, oh yeah, we're going to win. What do you mean? Yeah. And then you guys would go to crazy tournaments, and, you know, if you took third or fourth, I was like, what happened? Like, what do you mean? Yeah. And you'd have to like educate me of like, no, this is a massive tournament. This is like very different than our local stuff. So I was just like overly confident for you guys most of the time.
That's cool. Going back to your profession, so you talked about playing softball, and you guys had a good team. You guys were section champs 2 of the years you were on the team?
Yeah.
And that was your sophomore and junior, or junior and senior?
That was sophomore, junior.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you guys were
senior
champs.
year, we took second.
Because you had both Camuso sisters those 2 years?
I mean, yeah, but that was awesome. Yes. Yeah, we had a ton of really talented girls on that team. We had both Camuso sisters who played in college afterwards. One went to UCLA. Right, yeah. We also had Crystal Foster, who, actually that's probably her married name, but she pitched then afterwards for Chico State. So, yeah, we had several girls who went on to play college ball after that, and several for Simpson too. So.
And you had a little interest in Simpson, right?
Yeah.
And before I drug you up to Oregon.
Yeah. Yeah.
Touch on that.
Yeah. So, yeah, I mean, my dream always was to play in college and to go that route. And, so yeah, Simpson offered me a scholarship, and it was like a big defining moment in my life. Probably one of the first of like, do I stay here and play college ball, or do I go to Oregon State? So I had applied to both schools and got into both, and then had the scholarship for Simpson, and then had some scholarship money, not athletic, for Oregon State. So I followed a boy. I took a risk, and thankfully it worked out. Yeah. But it was a big swing.
Yeah, that was a crazy time.
Yeah. Well, and too, like, I don't know, Simpson was a lot of the same, and it was that was almost scarier than going somewhere else. Was like, I would have been playing with some of my old teammates. I'd still be living in my, childhood home. I wouldn't have done the dorms, and so yeah, it was a lot of the same, and I just really wanted some big grand adventure, and that's what we got.
And then touch on your professional career. Just walk us through your timeline while you were moving up to Oregon, how you saved up some money for college. Talk us through like your different hats throughout your professional career. Yeah,
so saving up for school, I got a job working at McDonald's on Lake Boulevard, and so I graduated. I could never work. You figured it out. I could not. But I could never figure out a way to work during school. And it's probably because I juggled different sports, and my dad was not my coach. Right. But so yeah, the day I graduated, we did grad night, and then got home at like 6 a.m. And then I started work at McDonald's at 11 a.m. that morning. So I worked there throughout the summer. And then we moved... I moved up to Corvallis to go to Oregon State with you, and then it was really hard to find a job there. So it took me until I think like February to land a job but I actually started working at Home Depot, which was cool. And I did cashier, and then they ended up hiring me as a bookkeeper,
Nice.
which was, that was like my first like big girl job. And that actually opened a lot of doors, and it still opens doors for me today. From there, you want me to head down? We moved down south to Fullerton, and then through wrestling got connected with 24 Hour Fitness.
Yeah, so one of the Fullerton used to have a wrestling program, and their coach there had a good relationship with the vice president of 24 Hour Fitness. And so when we moved down there, my plan was to go to school at Fullerton and wrestle there, and my family was going to support us in that venture, but they ended up dropping their wrestling program. So we were
After we moved
and signed a lease. So we were kind of just stuck down south without income, without really a plan. And luckily we had got hooked up with the Fullerton coach who hooked us up with the 24 Hour Fitness. Shout out to Steve Date.
Steve Date, you're the man. And Robert Setembro, both of those guys.
Yeah, we were really fortunate just to have a great landing spot.
Can we talk about that interview?
Yeah, go ahead.
So we get handed this interview. Like, it was definitely a favor that these guys were cashing in. And I had 2 interviews before at McDonald's and Home Depot, but I still, I didn't know the interview process. So you and I get called in, and we had beat this door down, right? We had called them every couple days for 2-3 weeks until we got this job, because the whole world had crashed. It was 2008, 2009, and there was just no job. So we get called into the interview together, and we interviewed together at the same time in front of a panel of people. It was a panel interview, and 2 of us getting just grilled. So that in and of itself was crazy, but...
And it wasn't like they were mean grilling us,
No.
but it was just
they were
us
hard
against
questions.
them.
Yeah.
It was 5 of them versus us 2. And it was just oh, and for some reason, I don't know, my head just wasn't right for an interview at that time. I wasn't expecting it or something. It was just give me the job. What are we doing here? And so we sat down, and it was just I was kind of shell shocked because it was just such a weird interview.
I love you, but I carried that interview.
Yeah, no, you did.
Well, and I don't know, it's to this day the craziest interview I've ever had.
Well, and you don't get interviews with the vice president.
No.
For the first interview.
And you could tell too, when we walked in, we they made it clear you got this interview because of your wrestling connection. And they made us prove that we were worthy of the job.
Yeah.
Which was good. I think it was really good that they were upfront of hey, your connection got you this, but why should we hire you? So that was our first welcome to real life.
Yeah.
You're done with school. Here's real life. So let's go.
And so right after that, you started at that same club that we interviewed that next week or so.
Yeah, I got hired on almost right away.
Yeah.
It was actually this time of year.
Yeah.
Do you remember that?
Yeah. And then just walk us through your time at 24.
Yeah, so that was really cool. That's when I decided that I really like working. I started off doing front desk, and then I needed more hours, and so I did kids club too. So I would work front desk, and then I'd split shift, do the first half front desk, and then I'd go work with the kids during the afternoon. And then eventually I switched over to sales and did memberships, which was really, really hard. I cried a lot at that job. So yeah. Thanks to all the managers that let me cry and get mad at them and then coach me through it. And then after memberships, I actually got the membership manager position. I worked my way up to that. Didn't love sales as much as it's pretty cutthroat there. And so I switched over to service. I wanted to do front desk, be a front desk manager. They called it a service manager. So I worked my way up and ended up, that was all in the same club. And so for service manager, I applied, and that was over in Costa Mesa. So that was a pretty big I went from like one of the smallest clubs in all of 24-hour fitness down south, which was Yorba Linda, and then went over to one of the biggest ones in Costa Mesa. So that was kind of fun because then we were I was in Costa Mesa every day.
Yeah.
And then you would stop by and visit. But like on my lunches, I would go to the beach and I lived the life.
Yeah. And talk about before that, your commuting and how we had to work that out.
This is like my favorite. We were so poor. We were just so poor. And we only had one car. And so we had bikes and we had skateboards. So, and actually we didn't even have bikes. Your mom let us borrow her bike. And so...
Well, no, it was... she did for a little bit, but it was the fixie, remember?
Yeah.
You were riding that old fixie for a little bit, too.
Yeah. So in 2010, fixies were really cool. And if you don't know, a fixie is a fixed geared bike. And so every time if the wheel moves, then the pedals move. And so you have to move. And I didn't have brakes. I did not have brakes. So if I wanted to stop, we were so dumb. So if I wanted to stop, I had to work against gravity and pedal backwards in traffic. So yeah, I would commute most of the time on a bike, which was great. I mean, we lived in Southern California and it was beautiful 90% of the time.
Yeah, and we were only, 2-3 miles away?
Yeah, we were 3 miles and it was all like one straight shot. We lived
Right.
right across from the college and then we took the one street. We lived on Yorba Linda Boulevard and we just...
All the way down.
All the way down. But it was hilly, and especially on that fixie, it was really hard. And I would have to go to work and then shower or change because it would be hot.
Yeah.
You can't coast. You literally can't coast. But sometimes, I mean, so I was in Yorba Linda, so I had the quick commute, but you were going from Yorba Linda to Buena Park, but also Lake Forest. So basically Caleb, you touched all the corners of Orange County.
Right.
So you got the car, and so sometimes you could drop me off at work, but then I'd need a ride home.
Right.
And so you'd leave me with your skateboard. And I can ride a skateboard, but I'm terrible at stopping, and I get really nervous. So thankfully most of the way, I would push I would ride a skateboard normal if it was flat, but then if it was hilly, I would just sit on this is squeaky chair, but I'd just sit on the bottom of the board and I'd just ride it like this. And then when it was time to stop, I would just put my feet down and that's how I rode.
Yeah.
Yeah. But it was I would be, on those days, I'd be working in the evenings. And so it was always dark. So I did not want to walk and it was a safe part of the area, but I preferred not to.
Yeah.
But then we had sweet friends that we made at 24-hour fitness, and a lot of times they would see my skateboard in the break room and they would be like, "You're not riding home, so wait for me to get off and I'll take you home." Yeah. So we did a lot of that, and a lot of you drop me off, I'd work out for 2 hours or whatever it was, waiting for my shift to start, and then a lot of friends driving me home.
Yeah.
We had it turned from not having, we had a college experience very much at Oregon State, and then expecting to have a college experience at Fullerton. And it turned out to be 24-hour fitness was our college experience. And same thing, filled with just tons of gym rat boys who were very, very sweet, and some wrestlers.
Yeah. So. And at that point, we kind of shifted our focus, one, because wrestling was kind of taken away at that point for me. So I still wanted to be involved in wrestling no matter what.
Yeah.
I knew I was going to just, somehow or another, I was going to be involved in wrestling.
Yeah.
And that's when I started coaching. So I got my first coaching gig. I think I had just turned 21 when we moved down there. And I started my first year coaching at Troy.
Yeah.
I started coaching at the local high school there, but I was also...
Back up, we did get married.
Yes, we were married.
We got married when we moved down there, and then all of this happened. Yeah.
So, but I had just started coaching and then just started fighting. So, while those are kind of in the same vein of, wrestling and the same combat sort of style, that's kind of a drastic kind of change from what you were used to. What was that
Yeah.
transition like? You know, one, having me kind of be upside down, not knowing, you know, what the
Yeah.
next step was, but two, being one, now a fighter and a coach. You know, those
Yeah.
are a lot of responsibilities to have as a wife as well.
Yeah. Well, and this is like, we had just moved in together. We had just become married. And so it was like, yeah, it did feel like we were upside down for a long time because we were, you know, it's not like no part of our life in that season was comfortable. We didn't have money. We didn't have stability. We didn't have like convenience of cars and things. So it was like, it was very, very hard. It was one of the harder seasons of our life. So yeah, it was difficult, but it also, having those two, so you coached at Troy, and that team in and of itself was so special. Like, from the kids to the coaches to the moms, like, they just wrapped their little arms around our family and made us feel a part, and they were so grateful to have you. So even though it was really crazy and there was a lot of moments of me like, why do you have to go to practice today? Like, why do we have to, you know, do this? Or you're going where now? And it was a hard season, but in the midst of it all, it was like, oh, these people love us and they care for us. And these are wrestling people. Like, it's just a special community, and they were special in and of itself. And then same thing when you were fighting, you were at Mark's gym, Rain Training Center. And if it wasn't for Mark, we might not have made it in like a million different ways. Like, him and Christy just.
And that was another career you had. You know, you got to babysit for Trey and Elise and all that.
It was okay. Their family's just incredible. They literally created a job for me to watch their one daughter, Elise, who I think was 4. She must have been in preschool. And Christy basically made this position, and she was like, yeah, it'll be a daycare, but I want you to focus on, you know, on kind of it being preschool, but it'll be fun, it'll be playing. And she set this whole thing up and paid me very well, and it was only for her kid. And like, they didn't need it. They just out of the goodness of their hearts, like, created this position to help us make it to the next step. Yeah. So that was so special. And then I'd work for, like, they'd do like a parents' night out, and I'd babysit for with other people to help, and I'd, you know, babysit on occasion for them too. But I mean, those two communities, like, I've never felt more cared for outside of our, like, Reading is so small and we have our people, but like, to be totally away from home and not know anybody.
Yeah.
Was special.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. And then, so what was it like being a fighter's wife?
Oh, it was cool. Again, like, my whole experience at every, like, I think until you started competing in Jiu Jitsu, I just ignorantly, like, kind of walk through the world like, okay, I guess this is what we do now. And I just kind of learned, like, being a fighter's wife was weird because at some point there's money involved with it. And then fighters are not reliable at all. Like, we found that out very quickly of, like, you'd get fights and then they wouldn't show up. And so that part was really frustrating. Like, you worked and you trained so hard. And at that point, like, finally it, like, I felt like it cost you and it cost us as a family, like, not only in time, but you were driving 30 minutes every day one way just to go train. And so it was like, literally, like, do we have $5 that we can put into gas to get you to training today? So for you to work so hard in your training camps and then for people to not show up was really difficult. So there was, like, that aspect of it, of, like, managing a camp. That was the difficult part, is, like, managing a camp and your expectations, and, like, still being married was really difficult. But in retrospect, like, if we could go back and do it again, I'd try and do it a lot differently.
Yeah.
just because I know I caused a lot of stress in those camps. I'm trying to be like, hey, I'm here, I'm your wife, love me. But to a degree, you do have to give up a portion of yourself to the sport. And that's a big piece of what camps are.
Yeah.
But it was like, when you talk about going in and watching like you compete, that was cool.
Yeah.
That I really liked.
That was a little different.
It was very different. It was a show.
Yeah.
And like, for the first time, like, nobody watches wrestling. None of your friends that you actually hung out with in high school, like on a day-to-day basis in your friend group, maybe they came to like one or two of your wrestling meets or tournaments. But like, all of our friends came to your fights.
Right.
And like, we'd travel and then your friends would be there. Like, yeah, didn't like John Conkle showed up to a Southern California fight, right?
I think so.
Yeah.
Yeah. There were some random ones. Yeah.
Yeah. And so it was just special to like see everybody like rally around you and celebrate like your hard work. So that part was really cool. And it felt like, oh, okay, this is worth it. And then to get a little paycheck afterwards was like, okay, this will do.
It makes it worth it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. And then transitioning from that point, we ended up moving back to Reading.
Yeah.
So just talk us through that.
Yeah, I think that like for me, I really saw the writing on the wall of like, I really wanted to have a family. Like and in that time too, my dad had died. And so I wanted to be near family, even though we were still in Southern California, we were close to family, but I just missed like the closeness of family in your everyday life. And so, and then I really wanted us to start having babies. And like, no matter how I tried to figure it out, I was like, we could maybe afford 2 or 3 dinners out, but we can't afford to have a baby. Like, there's no nothing. We could not. So I really pressured us, I think, to moving up here. And then started looking for jobs. And also, we didn't ever see each other. Like, you were working nights in order to accommodate for wrestling. So you'd work from what?
I'd close.
Yeah, so like 6 to
6 to
midnight.
11,
Yeah. And then I was working mornings from 5 a.m. in Costa Mesa. Yeah, 5 a.m.s until like 3. So we'd see each other for maybe an hour or 2, but you were already at practice most days. So, so yeah, I just really wanted to be home and have babies, and started applying for jobs and found one, and it moved us here. And we decided not for you could stop working. Like, there was a trade-off of like, okay, we're moving away from the best training in the world to okay training. And, but the trade-off was you don't have to work and you can train and coach full time.
Right.
So that was like our trade-off. And at the time it seemed like it might work out,
But yeah, then a lot of fights fell through, and
yeah.
you know, our plan was just to take every fight that came, and we had like 10 fall through within the first year of us moving here. So it was just like, oh, this isn't going to work.
Yeah.
So, and then I ended up working after that. But you were working at the chiropractic office in Reading with Dr. Todd.
Yeah.
And then, you know, up until recently, you were just working 1 day a week there. You were working more, but then we had kids and you started to kind of pull away. So talk us through your transitions.
Yeah. So basically when we moved up here, I was working full time, and then we saved up, we bought a house, and then started having babies. And so from that point, as soon as we had kids, I started to pull back. So it was like 3 days a week, and then 2 days a week, and then finally just 1 day a week, and then working from home just a little bit. So, yeah, and then pulling back, and then obviously you during that time worked full time, and yeah, did that. So, but yeah, once I transitioned to, I guess you RDC, which is where you had the bulk of your career, they closed and did some layoffs. And so then at that point, I jumped back in and worked for the first time. It was only supposed to be part-time. And then I got, this was in real estate with the Barrett team. And so I jumped back in and worked part-time. And then shortly after that, got asked to come on full-time, which was cool. It was just a lot. And it was a hard season for me. Just a hard season because our boys, I missed them and I missed being home with them, but it was really good and I learned a ton. And then I did real estate from there. So I was an assistant for a real estate team and then got my real estate license a month after that. Was with them for a little over a year, did real estate on my own, and then eventually transitioned into what I'm doing now, which is doing loans for Disney Vacation Club resale.
And you get to do that from home, so
You get to do that from home. So yeah, it's a job that your sister introduced me to and kind of put my foot in the door with them. And so now it's completely from home, 100%. It's full time. But the fact that I'm here and I'm present with our family is super, super special. So it's kind of like all of my jobs got me, like I could tell you, like from McDonald's to real estate, like all of that built up into like needing what I needed for this job. So I'm super thankful for all those steps along the way, but this is like by far the best job I've ever had as far as like work-life balance and enjoying what I do.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
And going back to you doing Jiu Jitsu, talk us through like, because we kind of touched on the wrestling portion, but like, what was that like getting into Jiu Jitsu and like learning that and like being thrown in there? What was that like? And then talk about your competitions as well.
Yeah. So we had a birthday party for a friend, and Danielle, who used to coach, she's the black belt at our gym. Well, just at this party, all these wild and crazy boys showed up, and a couple of girls, and they were just jiu-jitsu kids, and Danielle was like, "Hey, you should come do jiu-jitsu," and I was like, "Yeah, never." And I like a big reason for that is she's a couple years younger than me, and there was like very much my group of girls, the wrestling world that we lived in was very much no girls. Like, you do not come in the room. Like I said, like closed doors, you'll wave, go back in, but like wrestling is not for girls. And so absolutely not am I going to do jiu-jitsu. So now you're going to wrestle me and then hurt me. No, no way. So Dee Dee planted the seed. And I was like, thanks, no thanks. Let's just, not. And then I just, every time I was like, I don't like CrossFit and I don't like this. And it was just hard, like finding exercise that was fun. Nothing was fun to do and nothing makes you, I could always cheat at all the other exercises. So I was like, whatever. And so all along the way, every time I was like, well, I don't like Zumba anymore, or oh, I don't like whatever, he would say, well, jiu-jitsu, you could try jiu-jitsu. That'll get you in shape. And so finally, once you had transitioned to doing jiu-jitsu at Rice Bros, they had a women's only class, which was a big like piece of the barrier for me of like, I don't want to go with really good guys. I don't really want to go with guys. So I tried the women's only class, and it was really good and really hard. They had asked me, and I still feel bad about this, but Maurice, who was coaching at the time, she said, okay, do you have any experience? And I just said, no. And you had been coaching there a little bit. You weren't like the no-gi coach yet, but you were coaching a wrestling class there. But I never wanted it to like seem, I don't know. I didn't want to like
sandbagger.
Well, I didn't want to like drop your name. I thought that like that was, I don't know.
Yeah.
I didn't want to be like, well, my husband is Caleb Vallotton, you know? And so I was like, nope, I've never done it, like, which I hadn't. I've never done wrestling either, like not a day in my life. And so, but in retrospect, they asked like if I wanted to go live, and I said, yeah, absolutely. And I could tell they were like, this girl she's lying. Like, she's done something before. And I've talked to him since. But what I think really, really helped me is I've watched hundreds, thousands of hours of wrestling. We've, you wrestle me in the kitchen. We're always like play wrestling. So like I understand the movements, and I think that's really helped me in my jiu-jitsu is that I get wrestling, whether I've done a move before, but like I will try stuff that I've seen and never done, but I'm like, this should work.
Right.
It doesn't, but at least I'm like confident to try something that I've seen, whereas people are, people who've never wrestled and never done jiu-jitsu, they wouldn't even know that move exists. But so I think that's really helped me.
Yeah. And we got to compete for the first time together, which was kind of cool. Like our whole family got to compete in jiu-jitsu for the first time together. Like that was our first tournament ever, my first tournament ever.
Oh yeah, that's right.
The boys' first tournament ever. So it was like, all right, we're doing this together. And that was one of the most stressful days of our life.
I get sick to my stomach thinking about it. When I watch wrestling, when I talk about wrestling, like I just get flooded with emotions, especially like kids. And especially my kids. And so it felt like hundreds of our gym's kids. And so there was times when you were getting ready to compete. All of the other coaches were coaching on other mats. We didn't know people. I did not know people super well at the time. So like I didn't have any of the other coaches' phone numbers, or did I feel like super comfortable to be like, hey, Longo or Tanner, come coach. And so, like, I coached poor little Mappy. And he was what? He was 4.
Yeah.
He was 4 at the time. I was a little baby. And I didn't know what I was doing, and he didn't know, but I coached him.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've been asked not to. But it was super special, but it was one of the craziest days of my life. Because we all won. Yeah.
You're still undefeated as a jiu-jitsu practitioner.
Yeah. Jiu-jitsu is very much a love-hate relationship for me. I love it so much. It is so hard, and I especially hate competing. It just like all of my adrenaline just dumps, and like I can feel it now in my body. Like my stomach is upset thinking about competing. And it's like the process of walking through it and doing things scared is important for me, and I think it's healing in many, many ways. And in fact, like a lot of the women that do jiu-jitsu, I think that is one reason that they find it is because it is one of the most therapeutic sports that there absolutely is. But it is, competing especially, is really not my favorite thing. I will keep doing it, but I will specifically like tell you that I'm thinking about doing a tournament so that you'll tell Tanner. And then I'm such a people pleaser that if Tanner says, or Maurice says, hey, I heard you're doing blah, 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 I'll be like, yeah, I'm doing it, and I'm going to do a good job to make you proud of me, but I do not want to do this.
Which is worse, your anxiety watching your boys or your anxiety you competing yourself?
Oh, it's me.
Yeah.
Yeah, it is.
Because you don't get too bad with the boys. You've had times where you get a little excited, but nothing too bad. Yeah,
I get excited for sure. Well, and excitement and anxiety is the same emotion. It's just how we experience in our bodies.
Well, yeah, I wasn't saying as much excited as I was stressed.
Excited. Yeah. To be fair, the times that I've gotten excited, they've been warranted. But I just have so much confidence in you guys that like even though I get stressed out watching the kids, I know that like they're really good at what they do too. And I'm like, they're so young, and while they win a lot, like they lose a lot too. And so it's just part of it for us. And so nothing's on the line. I can watch them win. I can watch them lose. It's just I get nervous when maybe moves are done illegally and moms might need to stop the match. I promise they won't. I promise they won't. But there's been a time or two. Yeah. But no, me participating is by far, it's the worst. It's the worst experience I've ever felt in my life. Like I'd rather jump off a cliff into water. But like it's very hard. Yeah.
That's tough. You kind of touched on your career and what you've been doing lately. But let's transition now and talk about, what we've been up to.
Yeah.
I haven't done a podcast in a month or so just because we've been kind of like building out the club and getting prepared for that. So why don't you just talk us through that transition and then talk about, how you've been involved in it.
Yeah. So last year was our first year running the club.
The K through 8.
Yeah, the K through 8 East Side. You've been coaching high school forever now. But last year, the guy who was running it, his son was in 8th grade and kind of phasing out. And so he asked us, and we had known that this was coming. This is like kind of always been the plan, to take it over. And so last year we just kind of ran with things as they were, figured out how it worked. But then this year we just kind of had a bigger vision for it and have tried to take it like to the next level. And so with that, we've just tried to like, and I think in general, wrestling has kind of been stuck in a lot of ways. Like everything's on paper, you score on paper, you sign up on paper. It's an old school sport. You don't need much for it. So it's just old. So this year, like our big thing has just been like trying to modernize like our processes. And you and I have like really big dreams and goals for like growing and expanding the club. So in order to do that, we've been trying to streamline our processes so that we have the capability to grow. Because I think last year, like the whole year felt very stressful because there was no planning. Like previously, it was very difficult. We didn't have systems. So there was no like, how do I prepare for parent night? Or how do I prepare for this? When it's just like, well, you just wait till they sign up, and when it's go time, it's go time. So that's been our back end, is like really putting in solid systems into place that make it easier and more streamlined so that we can run at a higher level.
Yeah, and I think that's a big key point, is that higher level portion. Just because, like you said, wrestling, especially in Shasta County, has been stuck in the olden days for so long that we haven't progressed, and we haven't had a really focused club that's going to be focused on all three styles, like Greco, freestyle, and collegiate, but also a year-round kind of focus and getting kids to that next level. You go to any other towns, Fullerton, Mark Munoz has multiple different clubs that he runs. You go, just to Sacramento and Elk Grove, my buddy Nick Jordan, he has a gym that he's running academy full time. So you're seeing that pop up a lot more often, a lot more places. Is
Gold Rush. And,
you have to be full time if you want to get anywhere in this sport. It takes a level of dedication that has to be met on a daily basis, or you take steps back. By taking time off, you take steps back, no matter what you're doing, no matter if it's, good for your healing or, your energy level or your focus or whatever it is. By you not being consistently on the mat year round, there are people getting better than you. And we just haven't had that opportunity here in Shasta County. So that was a big motivator for me, was for our kids, for the kids in the club, giving them an opportunity for those who want to. I mean, a lot of kids these days play multiple sports, but those kids who want to be singular focused and really take this to the next level, that was a huge motivator for me. I saw the writing on the wall and how what's the word for it? How limited we were versus those other counties, and how we had one hand behind our back as we were trying to fight these battles, in season, where these guys had been, preparing all summer,
Yeah.
whether it be lifting, technique, camps, all kinds of things. So this year we really focused on trying to build and trying to really kick off a year-round program. So we kind of started this summer with the camp, and getting Chase Pammy and Greg Varela out was a huge point, because they're running two of the best clubs, I think, on the West Coast right now, with Gold Rush and then Bay Area Dragons. So both of those clubs are hugely successful and doing really well. So it was nice to have those guys come out. One, for a fundraiser for our club, for the team.
Yeah.
It was a great camp. We had over 60 kids out, and we were able to start that process of what year-round wrestling will look like in Shasta County. And those guys also gave us some great insights on what they're doing, and how they're progressing and getting their kids to that next level, getting buy-in from those kids. And really it was them who kind of helped me out, and you guys can watch their podcasts as well, because those guys were instrumental in how we built what we wanted for the club this year.
And just like to back up though, like from what we currently have as a club, as a youth club, is so special. Like we have we were gifted essentially this 30-year legacy of a club of Eastside, and so like that has just been poured into from parents and dads and kids who have just been like super amazing and great. So like I think it's really important to like mention that piece of like, this is a legacy program, and the people who have poured into it over the years, we owe so much debt and gratitude to them, because we would be nowhere essentially without them. And like our problem is that we have a ton of kids, which is awesome. And so I think like our goal and our gift from the previous East Side and the program that has been run, that we're now running, is the gift from them is all of these dedicated kids during the season, and our dream is to grow that into like still honoring that collegiate season, but then taking those kids who are like, oh yeah, I do love this, and then turning them into year-round athletes. But yeah, we could not have done that without our previous club, and then without our two Greg and
Chase.
Just basically answering all of your questions and basically helping us like build the foundation of like, how do we even start? So that's super cool.
Yeah, and that's one thing you mentioned, just all the support from the old guard with Eastside, but not only just the coaches but the parents as well. Like we have such a great parent group in our club. Like we have so many knowledgeable dads that are helping out and like helping with the techniques and stuff, that they're understanding it too. So it's like we're building this like big family army of a club that's that's going to be doing well for a long time. So talk about your automation process and what you've been doing with the website and building that out for us.
Yeah, so we really started with the website of just like, here is a place. We have functioned solely off of a Facebook in the past, and it can just be chaotic. Things get lost, and it's just hard to direct people to a social media platform. So my goal was to make us as professional as possible, and that started with a website. So we are now runtodanger.co. If you would like us to have runtodanger.com, you can donate tens of thousands, perhaps even $100,000. We did not know this at the time. That's a joke. But anyway, so we're runtodanger.co. And so this year I have made it to where we can fully sign up online. So, usually we do signups at a parent night, and it's just lots of checks and papers flying at us. And so since last year, that's been my vision of how do we get this paperless? How do we get this stress-free? And so you can sign up in 3 simple steps now. You go to runtodanger.co. You go to our store and you sign up for the Eastside season. You put in your athlete's information. You do have to put in one athlete at a time because we're capturing that child's information so we know who's signing up. So you input their information and then you pay for the season. You check out. You can then go back to the website and sign the waiver. Once the payment and the waiver are done, your kid is signed up for the season and you can stop there. If you do want to purchase gear, we've got a couple different options this year. We went with Compound Sportswear, which again, we borrowed from Greg. It's who they used and we really liked how they work. So basically, you go, again, it's on the website, runtodanger.co. You'll scroll down and it says like team gear and you click the button. It takes you to that page. And you can put your size in for a singlet, fight gear or fight shorts, a t-shirt and sweatshirts. And then for parents who want gear, you can also buy either a t-shirt or sweatshirt for yourself. So that's it. And then if kids don't like singlets, we are finding that a couple kids really just don't want to wear it. So we have on runtodanger.co in the store, we also have rash guard and valet tudo shorts and then leggings to go under those. But that's a cool thing, like with wrestling. Obviously, we would love for you guys to wear your team's gear so that people can recognize, oh, that's Run to Danger Eastside. But I think that's a cool thing too for maybe a kid who is brand new or families that don't have a ton of extra funds, like buy a shirt, wear some gym shorts, call it good, So
yeah, the point of entry is so low, and
yeah,
we've done a good job of keeping like old shoes around that we can let other kids use when they're trying it out.
Yeah.
And that's one of the things we're trying to do this year is trying to get some new kids in.
Oh, yeah.
And talk about next week and what we're planning.
Yeah. So as we're growing things, right now, I think we have 12 kids signed up, which I think is great because normally we have 0 until sign-up days. But of those 12, I just counted 8 are brand new and have 0 years of experience. So what we've done is we've created a welcome week. So it's basically a trial week. So it'll be the 23rd until the 26th. And everyone's welcome. So if you've wrestled before, please come. Just start your season early if you want. We understand a lot of kids are still in sports, but Welcome Week, the 23rd through the 26th, is designed specifically for kids who have never wrestled, don't know anything about it, and just want to come try it out. So that'll be next week, and it starts at 5:45, goes until 7 o'clock. And the cool thing is, just wear a t-shirt, wear some shorts, and go barefoot. Don't even bother buying shoes yet.
Yeah, bring some socks. We have a bunch of loaner shoes that we let kids wear.
Yeah, we can loan shoes out. You can go. Our kids go barefoot half the time. It's not ideal, but it's what happens. So just come try it out, and you do need to sign a waiver. So ideally what you would do, you'll go to the website, runtodanger.co, go to the store again, and there's a welcome week. So you'll just check out with your welcome week. It's $0. It's just a way for me to track it logistically, and then fill out the waiver, and then you're good to go. So just show up. I'm also emailing, there's lots of questions, when you first start wrestling, what do you wear? Where's the wrestling room? How do I get there? So I'm also emailing all of those families that are brand new to wrestling, just a welcome email with some frequently asked questions. You can find that on our website too. I think it's under the blog. So, but just trying to answer questions and introduce people to a world that when I was brand new to it, I was like, what the heck? Why, what do you, what do you wear and how do you do it? And then thinking of it's a very low entry sport, but as a parent who knows nothing about it, I tried to think of those questions that they would want. And then also too, like, feel free to call us or text us or email us, and we'll answer any of those questions. And a good email is contact@runtodanger.co.
Cool. And then, so next week, that'll be Monday through Thursday. We'll do that 5:45 to 7.
Yep.
And then the week after, we'll have our parent meeting. And our parent meeting will be on the 30th.
Yep. Parent meeting is on the 30th. Ideally, everyone will be signed up prior to the parent meeting. So I have put out the sign-up information on our socials too. So on Run to Danger, on Eastside Facebook page, and like lined out the 3 steps. So ideally, everyone is signed up before the parent meeting because it's all online. There's nothing I need to do as far as like signing your child up, unless you want to pay cash, then I can help you with that. But other than that, everything should be online and streamlined. So parent meeting, we can really just focus on talking about tournaments for the season. Even like we'll have gear there at the parent, just some like leftover stuff from previous years that we'd like to get out of our garage. But other than that, like everything can be done online, which I'm really excited about. Yeah.
Yeah. So you got the compound sportswear gear that needs to be ordered by when?
That needs to be ordered. The very last date is November 6th. So with this compound sportswear, it's really cool. It's a really good price for what we're getting.
Is it November 6th?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Ideally, I would love for everybody to have everything ordered and we can close shop by the 1st, but I did give us till November 6th just because I know it can be a lot of money, like right up at front. So if you need to pay, that's my goal too, is like, yeah, it's expensive to sign up. Well, it's very affordable, but it can just be a lot out of pocket, at one time. Yeah. So you can sign up and pay for your season now, but then we have until November 6th is when the store actually closes. It takes 4 to 6 weeks for that order to come in. It'll ship to our house and we'll divide up all the hundreds of shirts and orders, and then we'll bring those to practice. Okay. 4 to 6 weeks after it closes.
Cool.
Yeah.
And then with our gear, with the rash guard shorts and tights, you can order those and we'll bring those directly to you. We have those in stock.
There's a couple different options for that one. So you go to the website to order the rash guard sets. And we can bring them to practice. We can do I'll do porch pickups. You'll see the 2 delivery options. I do have shipping, but it's a $10 shipping fee. But so if it's anybody local, just do either porch pickup or I'll bring it to practice. But if you would like to ship, we can. It's just not. Yeah. Yeah.
And you guys can mix and match too. Like we're getting fight shorts for the gear kit from Compound, so you guys can mix and match the fight shorts with the rash guards, or you could do both if you wanted. Kind of dealer's choice on that. And again, like Megan said, you can wear shorts and a t-shirt. Those aren't mandatory. Those are just extras, so people can have some team gear and we can kind of look as a team this year. Last year we had some stuff, but not a ton, where all the kids got something to wear. And so I really want to make sure that we have at least opportunity for everyone to get something. Yeah. For this year. We also have some bumper stickers on the website as well if you want to support the club. And then what were you going to say?
Last year, a lot of the kids ended up really liking the rash guard and Valley Tudo shorts as a practice option.
Yeah.
So that's an option too. If you want to go all in, you can have some practice gear. You can. I've yet to see somebody practice in a singlet, but so I think that's probably why they like it for that.
Chase Pammy does a singlet day. We might have to do that.
Ooh, that'd be kind of fun.
Match day,
yeah, I like that. But yeah, lots of ways to order, lots of options. Our heart, I think, is wrestling is such a place for so many special types of kids, but it's like for a lot of these kids, it's where they feel at most home, and we want as many kids as we can, and also like for money not to be an option. So if you can, buy the gear, great. But if you can't, wrestle. Just wrestle. Just show up, wrestle.
Yeah.
It's a good life skill.
Yeah.
It teaches us a lot. So
for sure. So we got parent meeting October 30th.
Yep.
5:45.
5:30.
5:30. And then our first practice will be that next Wednesday.
Yeah.
Which is the 1st.
Yes.
Okay, so November 1st is our first official practice. And that's another thing. I'll probably have him on the podcast coming up.
He should be your next.
Is one of our new coaches. He wrestled at Virginia Tech. We're really excited to have him. He's a really great guy. Stud.
Three-time state placer, Fargo All-American.
Yeah, real stud. His brother wrestled at Oklahoma State. He wrestled at Virginia Tech. His cousin is Jordan Oliver. So he comes from a long line of great wrestling.
Wrestling dynasty.
Yeah, so it's going to be great to have him on board and really take off with the program.
Yeah.
So we're really excited. And then we'll have our tournament again this year. January 20th, I believe, is the date. So we'll be looking for that. And check us out. Check out the website. Check out the Instagram. Real quick on the website as well, you have some links, one to this podcast. So that's pretty cool. We have the store links. We have the frequently asked questions. We have the addresses of where we're going to be practicing. We're hoping to add multiple locations in the future. One of them being the new Rice Brothers building once they get up and running. And that'll be, down the line, we'll announce that on our socials and stuff. But that's where our heart is, to set up multiple locations, to set up, a huge program. We want to see this thing grow. We want to see multiple coaches involved. We want to see, not just me. It's not just, my club. I want to see Shasta County wrestling grow. So that's our heart behind it, and we're really excited for the new season.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah, and then I think that's it. Okay. You got anything else?
Nope.
Cool.
I think we're good.
All righty.
Thanks for having me.
Thank you.
Well, the worst one is me and Augie. Now it's summertime, and we're living in the mods. And we're working. We have a paint business. We're painting houses, and
they're starving to death.
We're starving. It was horrible.
Potato family.
Yeah. So you always had weapons on you, whether it was a machete or BB guns were. So and we were in bunk beds, and sure enough, it's probably 11:30 at night, and I'm working construction with Hank Stenger. So I got to get up at 5, whatever, and all of a sudden I wake up to this loud music. Like someone broke in. It's just a song. And you wake up and you don't know what's going on. And all of a sudden you look and there's smoke coming in the room. I'm thinking, oh crap, the house on. I go, Augie, the house is on fire. And he couldn't hear me because the radio was full blast. He's like, what's going on? Well, we're grabbing BB guns and
And you couldn't turn on the light.
No, we got the electric. He cut the electricity. So we're like, we roll out and it's dark out and the music's blaring. And there's smoke, and you're choking on the smoke bombs, and then all of a sudden you start hearing pop, 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 and something's hitting you. Like, what is that? He took peanut butter and he stuck it in toilet paper, and then he got firecrackers, and he figured out that if you take out
longer fuse.
Well, and he took the powder out, and then he timed it. And they take about a minute before they go off. So he goes, I'll make 15 bombs, about the size of little tomatoes, stuck the firecracker. So he breaks into the house while we're sleeping. He had it all down he first put down the peanut butter bombs, then he had to light those.
First the smoke.
Yeah, then the smoke bombs, turns on the radio, but he doesn't just leave. He goes outside and gets about 20 feet from the front door, because it's about 1 a.m, and he's laying on his stomach with a gun.
Well, I had to go to your box, your power box outside. I had turned everything on, all your lights, and your stereo to 10. Maybe 11. And then when I hit that jammer, everything came on.
Yeah. And we're like, whoa. And we're getting peanut butters all over us. We're freaking out. And then with the smoke, we're thinking so we kick the door open to get fresh air. and he's waiting with a gun. Kill, 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 kill. So we're getting shot, and like, again, I'm thinking this guy's married. He's got a full-time job because it's summertime. It's 1 o'clock in the morning, and I'm thinking, how long did it take him to make those 10 bombs? And how much money did you spend on the Skippy peanut butter?
That was the best prank ever.
Yeah.
That was well planned.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. So there was. You're right. The stuff that we did in high school, it was natural to do.
It just extended.
Yeah.
It was 13th, 14th grade.
Yeah.